Hi and welcome here. If you've watched the first two videos and thought, okay, we've got food handled, this is the moment where preparedness gets a little bit more intense and where it can quietly fall apart. You have 6 months of food stored perfectly and still be unprepared because food is only half the plan. Today, we're gonna finish this system by talking about water storage, freeze-dried strategies, and all the overlooked add-ons that make everything usable, including spices and bouillon. I'm going to talk about the shelves right behind me here and how they work into our system. I'm going to talk about the DIY MRE system that are in these totes so you can see how we use them as part of our system. It's a system to save money. And somewhere in this house is the one item that makes all of our food storage actually work and not just sit on the shelves. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Let's take a quick look at this food storage system essentials so far. So in video 1, we talked about dry staples for calories. We talked about canned food for speed. We talked about cold storage for fats and flavor. We talked about home canned meals for flexibility. In video 2, I talked about rotation and flow and real life integration. But all of that assumes that one thing is handled. Now, just because I said water, don't turn this video off. We're going to talk about a lot of other things as well as part of this total system. But water is so essential. Without water means no cooking, no rehydration, there's no sanitation, no comfort, hygiene, there's no safety, and to be really blunt, you're not going to live long. Food is only part of the system. Water is part of our food storage system. Let's talk about the reality of the situation. This is not apocalypse hoarding. This is bridging important gaps. The baseline here is 1 gallon per person per day. This is a gallon of water, and this is the bare minimum. I say you should have at least 1.5 gallons per person per day for drinking plus minimal cooking. It adds up quickly, and this is where people panic, and this is what disappears off of shelves in an emergency. It's those small water bottles that are packaged up in that plastic wrap, right? They just disappear. There's none left on the shelves. Or because water storage can be a little complicated, they just quit. They don't really look after it. So just like the food, we layer it. Commercial jugs, stackable containers, clearly dated. And yes, some of those small water bottles are good as part of a layered system. It's accessible, it's rotated, and it is used and replaced. Water like this should move throughout your life and not sit untouched. Now let's talk about bulk or utility water. This water is for cleaning. It's for flushing toilets. It's for hygiene. It's for washing dishes. This layer keeps life functional. Preparedness buys time, and time reduces stress. Water is boring, but so necessary to talk about and have handled correctly. But this next category, which I say needs to be 10 to 20% of your overall food preparedness, is what we're going to talk about right away. Now let's talk about freeze-dried food, because this is where people either way overdo it or ignore it entirely. Here's my philosophy. Freeze-dried food, like I said, should be about 10 to 20% of your total storage, not 70%. And that's why in my previous video, I said you don't need to go out and buy those bulk, huge pails of freeze-dried food. And that's because we're not talking about 70%. We're not talking about your entire plan, 10 to 20%. Why? Because freeze-dried food has an extremely long shelf life. It's lightweight storage. I can hardly feel the weight of this, but there is 8 servings of strawberries in here. They are wonderfully fresh strawberries when you rehydrate them, but they weigh almost nothing. There's a high nutrient retention. They also have an excellent worst case durability. We're talking 25 to 30 years in a metal can, which is solid. But all that durability and shelf life, it comes at a cost per calorie. Most of it, in my opinion, should be reserved for when more perishable foods are gone. However, you still need to learn how to cook with it now. Because freeze-dried food is an investment, and unused investments are wasted money. Here's how we rotate freeze-dried food into our system. We integrate it slowly into real meals. So freeze-dried fruit like this can be added to oatmeal. It can be added to other desserts. Freeze-dried eggs can be added to camping trips or backup breakfasts. Freeze-dried carrots and onions, they can be put into soups, they can be put into ground beef, chicken, or stews. Freeze-dried diced chicken like this, you can rehydrate it and saute it with rice. You could mix it with mayo and other spices for a chicken salad. You can pack it into those DIY MREs. It doesn't sit untouched. It rotates slowly through our system, but intentionally. 1 or 2 meals during the week, use freeze-dried components. Freeze-dried are your resilience layer, but not your daily driver. Let's get even more practical and wrap this entire system up with some very important layers. But first, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, as that tells YouTube that more people should see this. There's also a newer button on YouTube, and it's called the hype button. If you hype this video, thank you. With that being said, you can also support this channel by supporting your own preparedness. In the description, there are links to products that I use and believe in, and there's discount codes. One big one is my freeze-dried solution store Thrivalist, which also teaches survival courses. Precious metal provider, Silver Gold Bull, plus my preparedness list on an Amazon link. I buy from all these sources, and I've made it easy for you to prepare as well, using my experience to your advantage. Again, thank you for your support. Let's get back to the video. Let's take a look at another piece of the system, and that would be these DIY MREs. So we have multiple totes of this. This is MRE breakfast, MRE lunch 1, lunch 2, and an MRE supper or dinner. I'm gonna grab a couple of them. We'll grab a breakfast and a dinner. There's freeze-dried components in here. There's rice packs, there is protein, there is utensils, there's condiments, there's instant coffee, there is electrolytes. These are the grab and go, no thinking required, short-term bridge meals when there's a real need or emergency, but these are part of a system. And so you can see my video from about a month ago where I explain how to make your own and why and how and all of that. Preparedness is often about reducing decisions when stress is high. Spices, salt, bouillon, morel. This is the most underestimated part of storage. We need to have spices, we need to have bouillon, we need to have a lot of salt and pepper, many other spices, and they need to be stored generously because food fatigue is real. And you can survive on rice and beans, but you won't thrive without flavor. Also stored back here, coffee. The thing to remember when I show what's on these shelves and over here is that all of this stuff has been bought on sale. So everything that you see should have a sale sign on it, and that's how it should be in your home. It's a system to save money. 2 totes of tea, coffee filters, hot chocolate, and sweet iced tea. And I should mention this tote up here because this has all extra items that make up the MREs. So we have just a bunch of the components that we can make as soon as we are in production mode again for those DIY MREs. We've got instant coffee, and we've also got the individual packs of instant coffee. And down here we have important supplements in these 2 totes that our family takes. And over here we have medicines, which I need to do an entire video on. Comfort matters. Stress decreases when normal rituals stay intact. Morning coffee in a disruption, that is stability. Here is the reality of a hidden failure point. You can have food, you can have water, and still fail. You need to be able to cook all of this food without electricity. Whether it be on a camp stove or something else, you need to have enough fuel to do so. You need to have lighters. Talking about water, you need to be able to purify your water. You need to be able to filter water. You need to be able to collect water. You need to have backup methods to work with water. Here is backup purification filters for our gravity-fed water filter. It's very hard to cook without light. So you need to have lanterns, you need to have headlamps, you need to have battery banks because those are a part of a food storage system, just like anything else. Without light, it's very hard to find things in these totes, in these can sorters, in the cold room. And what goes in must come out. You need to have trash bags, paper goods, hygiene kits, and here are some key pieces of this food storage system, and you've seen them on every video. Ziploc bags. This is a medium freezer Ziploc bag. It's a little tougher, it keeps food sealed in and fresh. Figure out how much plastic wrap and aluminum foil that you use and store the appropriate amounts of both. And again, buy them on sale. These small items turn stored resources into functioning systems. Now let's connect this all together. We've got dry staples for calories, we've got canned goods for speed, we've got cold storage for fats and flavor, we've got freeze-dried for longevity and resilience, we've got water for usability, and all of the add-ons for the function, spices and comfort and morale. Rotation equals sustainability. This is preparedness that works quietly, and it was all on sale. If this feels like a lot, pause for a second. Start with more water than you think you need. One backup cooking method, a few freeze-dried ingredients, one meat, and maybe a favorite vegetable perhaps. Spices like this garlic powder and salt. One tote of DIY MREs. And this system is scalable to any size of dwelling. Just build slowly, rotate intentionally, and practice cooking with the items now. Real preparedness grows with confidence. If you're serious about preparedness, I've created a free 18-page downloadable ebook on building a practical real-world go bag. This isn't theory for us. Our family has had to evacuate in the past, and these are the exact principles we relied on. It's simple, tested, and focused on what actually matters when time is short. Consider it a thank you for being here and supporting the channel. You'll find the download link in the video description. This is where this series ends. Not extreme, not flashy, not fear-based, just intentional food, thoughtful water, strategic freeze-dried, and practical support systems. Preparedness isn't about control. It's about calm, it's about provision, and it's about knowing your family will be okay. If this series helped you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who wants peace without the panic. Because real preparedness isn't extreme. It doesn't shout. It quietly just does its job. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.